Episode 70, Deceiver. In their cell, Gabby Braun feigns illness, so Falco Grice's shouts of concern are able to draw in a garrison guard to look at her. When the guard approaches, Gabby suddenly attacks him, beating his head with a cloth-wrapped brick. Falco expresses doubts about their escape, but Gabby believes that staying will result in them being killed. In Marley, Reiner Brown awakens in a hospital with Peakfinger and Porco Galliard by his bed. He asks where Gabby and Falco are. After running all night, Gabby and Falco take a break by a river. Falco suggests Gabby take off her armband to avoid standing out, but she says no ordinary person will know what it means anyway. Falco is concerned the soldiers will though, and they already do not know if they will make it back home. However, Gabby does not care, planning only to make it far enough to get answers out of Zeke Yeager before she is killed. She tells Falco he does not have to follow her. He agrees and tears off her armband, prompting Gabby to knock him to the ground to demand it back. She feels the armband marks her as a good Eldian, and without it, she is the same as the Island Devils. She takes her armband back and tearfully asks Falco why he came with her to the airship. Before he can answer, they are interrupted by the arrival of Kaya, who asks where they came from so early in the morning. Gabby says they ran away from home as she reaches for a rock to throw, but Kaya accepts her answer and invites them to eat at her home. When they arrive at the rural house where Kaya lives, she asks them to wait outside. Gabby notices the corralled horses nearby and suggests escaping on one before the soldiers catch up with them. She also does not want to eat alongside devils, but Kaya quickly calls them in, and Falco tells Gabby to let him do the talking. Falco introduces them to the Browse family as siblings Ben and Mia, and offers to work if the family will let them stay for a few days. Artur Browse welcomes them and says there is no need for them to bow. They can stay as long as they like, and he invites them to breakfast. They sit down, and Lisa Browse tries to pat Gabby on the head, only for Gabby to push her arm away in horror. Though the other children at the table are shocked, Lisa apologizes, saying that Gabby must have been through a lot. Falco apologizes as well, and digs into his breakfast in an attempt to break the tension. He tries to get Gabby to eat as well, and she reluctantly takes a bite. At the port, Kiyomi Azumabito congratulates Dallas Zachary on the military's successful raid on Liberio. She has brought along with her an observation craft, the world's first flying boat powered by ice-burst stone. Outside of military headquarters, members of the public, including Flegel Reeves, ask Hanga Zoe about rumors that Aaron Yeager and the anti-Marleyan volunteers have been detained. They also ask about the orders to evacuate Shiganshina district. Hanga pushes aside their questions, deferring them to the military police, but Pure insists that all Eldians should have a voice in how Aaron is handled, given how he has secured a victory for them. Similarly, Roy reminds Hang of their push for everyday people to get involved during the coup d'etat. He asks if they have changed their views. Frustrated, Hang says the situation has changed now that their walls are open, and pushes Pure out of their way. Flegel says he understands Hang's situation and asks them to look in his eyes and tell him that he can trust them. Hangja looks over their shoulder and tells him this is for the Eldian people before heading inside the gate. Inside, Hangja meets with the members of the scout regiment who leaked the information about Aaron's imprisonment. Floch Forster says they did it because Aaron has not done anything wrong and should be freed. He views Aaron as a savior, but Hanki does not believe that the rumbling is a guaranteed safety measure. Undeterred, Floch presses for Aaron's release, saying that their victory will be squandered if they waste time. Hangja considers that Floch may be right, but they will not tolerate disobedience and plans to try him and his collaborators for leaking information. The 4 dissenters are confined. As they leave, Hanga is reminded of Jel Sanis's role as part of the secretive interior police, and his warning about how someone else will eventually take his place. The thought of being in his position aggravates Hanga, and they leave the room to do more investigation. From inside her cell, Louise, one of the dissenting scouts, asks Mikasa Ackerman if she had ever been in this cell herself. When Mikasa answers in the negative, Louise is briefly disappointed, but perks up and says she does not regret what she did. The rules will not matter if they win. When Mikasa is unmoved, Louisa tells her that she is still the same person she saved that day. Seeing Mikasa kill a Titan made Louise realize that she cannot protect things without power, and she has wanted to get closer to Mikasa ever since that day. She asks Mikasa why she joined the scouts and begins to suggest that if it was for Eren, she should be interested in freeing him, but Mikasa tells her to keep her mouth shut and starts to walk away. She glances back, though, to see Louise saluting at her, and the sight brings on a headache and memories of when Eren rescued her as a child. Elsewhere, Paxis meets with Yelena. He brings up an event 10 months ago when there was a celebration for the opening of the Trost Railway. At that time, the guard watching her changed to Floch, and he escorted her to her lodgings. Now, Floch has been detained for leaking information. At the same time, Eren began doing movements of his own. At the Browse stables, Gabi and Falco clean the stables when Gabi is unfortunately bitten on the head by a horse. Falco doubts there is a horse that would let her ride it, and she retorts that she was not trained to ride one anyway. Gabi does not like staying here because she does not feel they will learn anything. But Falco thinks it is better than roaming around. They can wait for help since he believes that eventually the outside world will attack the island. Kaya calls them to lunch and says they are quick learners. When Falco asks, she explains that the reason so many of the workers here are young is because they are all orphans, having lost their parents 4 years ago. Gabi takes this moment to say that Kaya has not accepted her guilt and asks if she has forgotten the atrocities committed by the people of the island. Falco tries to get Gabi to stop pushing the issue, while Kaya asks if that is what they teach in Marley. Startled, Falco asks how she knows, and Kaya says they have been yelling it out loud. Gabi grabs a pitchfork and prepares to attack Kaya when Falco intervenes, trying to get her to stop. When other farmhands notice the two struggling, Kaya covers for them, saying that Mia is jealous and thinks Kaya is trying to steal her brother. When Falco asks why she helped them, Kaya takes them to the village that used to be her home. 4 years ago, the villagers fled the Titans, leaving behind her mom, who could not run. She shows Gabi and Falco where she sat and listened to her mom being eaten alive. Kaya knows that the outside world considers the people of the island devils, but does not understand why they are hated so much. She asks the two of them what her mom did to deserve that. Gabi launches into the story of how Eldians had ruled the world and slaughtered people for thousands of years, but Kaya points out that her mother was born and raised on the island and never did any of that. When Kaya keeps pushing about the Eldian people in the present versus those in the past, Gabi brings up the recent attack on Liberio, but Kaya says as her mother died 4 years ago, that could not be her fault either. Kaya becomes more distressed as Gabi's fanaticism is unable to provide a reason for her mother's death that is not tied to inherited sin, until Falco finally explains that her mother was a victim of reconnaissance in force as part of a staging for a larger attack. He says her mother did not do anything wrong and apologizes. As Kaya comes to terms with this, Gabi takes Falco to task for leaking secrets to the enemy. Kaya thanks him for the information and finds it strange that he would apologize for Marley since he was just born there. He asks her how she survived the Titan attack, and she explains that a girl grabbed a hatchet and started attacking the Titan, allowing her to escape. Kaya tells them that her family has been invited to a restaurant where a Marleyan works. If they come along, they might be able to find a way home. When Gabi asks why she would help them, she says she wants to become a person like that girl. Back in Marley, the military completes its investigation of the Beast Titan's corpse and discovers that they have only found partial remains of Zeke, specifically his arms and legs. Realizing he only pretended to be killed, they believe Zeke has sided with Paradise Island and escaped on the airship. Theo Magath informs the warriors that in 6 months' time, The world plans to launch a global offensive against the island. Colt is aghast that they would wait that long to rescue Gabi and Falco, but takes care to frame it from the perspective of their worth as warrior candidates. Magath does not chastise Colt, but says, if Marley attacks alone, they will be driven back as before. However, Raynor points out that Zeke is expecting that they will wait given how much damage they have taken, and by then he will have a plan to defend against them, so Marley has to launch a surprise attack.